Hey everyone, I'm Rubo. So this is my very first video and I'm really glad you're here. I've got a bunch of stories from the Am I Overreacting subreddit to read today. And while I do that, I'm just going to be starting a new Minecraft survival world and doing some basic building. Nothing too crazy, just some relaxing gameplay while we go through these stories. I'm thinking this will be a good channel to put on in the background while you're doing other stuff, or maybe even falling asleep too if that's your thing. I've got my volume set nice and low, and we're just going to let these stories wash over us while I punch some trees and try not to die on the first night. I've been scrolling through Am I Overreacting for hours finding the best stories, and honestly, some of these situations are absolutely wild. People asking the internet if they're being dramatic or if their reactions were completely justified, and trust me, we're going to have some strong opinions about these. So get comfortable, grab your favorite snack or drink, and let's read some stories and judge some people together. Our first story is titled, Am I Overreacting for Refusing to Share My Food Delivery with My Roommate Who Never Pays Me Back? So this person writes, I have a roommate who I've been living with for about 8 months now. When we first moved in together, everything seemed fine, we split the rent evenly, had our own separate food in the fridge, and generally stayed out of each other's way. But over the past few months, my roommate has developed this really annoying habit of asking to share my food delivery orders. It started innocently enough. I ordered pizza one night and had extra, so when my roommate asked if they could have a slice, I said sure, no problem. Then it happened again a week later with Chinese food. I ordered way too much, so I didn't mind sharing. But then it became a regular thing. Now every single time I order food, my roommate somehow appears in the kitchen right when the delivery arrives and asks if they can have some, and it's never just a small amount. They'll take like half of what I ordered. When I started hinting that maybe they could chip in for the food they were eating, my roommate would say, oh yeah, totally, I'll get you back next time I order something, except they never order food. Or when they do, they conveniently order it when I'm not home, or they're eating in their room with the door closed. I've kept track, and over the past 2 months, my roommate has eaten probably $200 worth of my food and hasn't paid me back a single cent. Last night was the final straw. I had a really long day at work. I was exhausted and starving. I ordered my favorite Thai food, specifically got extra spring rolls because I've been craving them all day, and I got this specific curry dish that's kind of expensive but so worth it. The delivery arrives, and before I can even open the bag, my roommate comes out of their room and goes, oh awesome, you got Thai food. I'm starving, can I have some? And I just snapped. I said no, this is my food, I ordered it for myself, and I'm tired of sharing when you never contribute or pay me back. My roommate looked completely shocked. They said I was being really selfish and that roommates are supposed to share things. They brought up the time they let me borrow their phone charger, as if that's equivalent to $200 worth of food. Then they said I was making a huge deal out of nothing and that it's just food. I stood my ground and took my food to my room, but now my roommate is giving me the silent treatment and has been making passive-aggressive comments about how some people are stingy and don't understand the concept of communal living. They even texted our mutual friend group chat about how I refused to share food with them when they were hungry. Now some of our friends are saying I overreacted and that I should have just shared the food and talked about it later. They're saying I embarrassed my roommate and made them feel bad over something small. But I don't think it's small. It's been months of this behavior, and I'm tired of being taken advantage of. So am I overreacting for refusing to share my food delivery and telling my roommate no? Okay, so first of all, absolutely not overreacting. This is a classic case of someone taking advantage of kindness and then getting mad when the free ride ends. $200 is not a small amount of money, and the audacity to compare that to borrowing a phone charger is honestly impressive. What really gets me is the manipulation attempt. Going to the friend group chat to paint themselves as the victim? That's calculated. They're trying to use social pressure to make you feel guilty, so you'll go back to being their free meal ticket. And the whole communal living argument is garbage. Communal living means everyone contributes equally, not one person constantly taking from the other. The silent treatment is also such a manipulative tactic. They're punishing you for setting a boundary, hoping you'll feel so uncomfortable that you'll apologize and go back to the old arrangement. Don't fall for it. And can we talk about how they conveniently order food when you're not around? That's not coincidence, that's intentional. They know exactly what they're doing. They want your food but don't want to reciprocate. The friends saying you should have talked about it later are wrong too. You did try to handle it subtly by hinting about chipping in. Your roommate ignored those hints. Sometimes you have to be direct, and sometimes that directness comes at an inconvenient moment because you've finally hit your limit. I'm calling not overreacting on this one. Your roommate needs to learn that sharing is a two-way street, and you're not a free restaurant. Let's move on to our next story. This one is titled, Am I overreacting for being upset that my boyfriend told his friends I'm dramatic before I even met them? Here's what they wrote. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 7 months. Things have been really good overall. We get along great, have similar interests, and I genuinely thought we had a solid relationship. Last weekend, I finally got to meet his close friend group. He'd been talking about introducing me to them for a while, and I was actually excited, but also a little nervous, because I wanted to make a good impression. We met up with his friends at a bar on Friday night. The moment I walked up to the table, one of his friends, let's call him Mike, immediately said, "Oh, so you're the dramatic one," and laughed. I was confused and kind of laughed awkwardly, thinking it was maybe a joke I didn't understand. But then another friend chimed in with, "Yeah, Brian told us you can be a bit much sometimes." I looked at my boyfriend, whose name is actually Brian, and he had this embarrassed expression but tried to play it off like it was no big deal. He said, "I didn't say it like that," but he also didn't really defend me or clarify what he actually said. The whole night was uncomfortable. His friends kept making little comments about me being dramatic or high maintenance. One of them asked if I was going to cause a scene when I ordered a cocktail instead of beer. Another one made a joke about me probably crying during movies. Every single comment was framed as a joke, but it was clearly based on things my boyfriend had told them about me. I tried to laugh it off and be cool about it, but inside I was mortified. After we left, I asked my boyfriend what exactly he had told his friends about me. He got defensive and said he might have mentioned a couple of times when I got emotional about things, but he didn't mean it in a bad way. He said his friends were just joking around and that I was being too sensitive about it. I asked him to give me specific examples of what he told them. He said he mentioned the time I cried during a sad movie, which okay, it was a really sad movie and lots of people cry during movies. He also mentioned that I got upset when he forgot our 3-month anniversary, which I feel like is a reasonable thing to be disappointed about. And he told them about the time I was stressed about a work presentation and vented to him about it for like 20 minutes. None of these things seem dramatic to me. Crying during a sad movie is normal. Being hurt when someone forgets a milestone in your relationship is valid. And venting to your partner about work stress is literally what partners are supposed to be there for. But apparently, my boyfriend framed all of these moments as examples of me being overly dramatic and emotional. He told his friends these stories before I ever met them, so they already had this impression of me as some kind of drama queen before I even walked up to that table. When I told him I was really hurt by this, he said I was proving his point by overreacting to a few harmless jokes. He said his friends didn't mean anything by it, and that I should be able to take a joke. He also said that I'm making a big deal out of nothing, and that if I can't handle some light teasing, then maybe I am as dramatic as he said. Now I'm second-guessing everything. Was I overreacting to be upset? Should I have just laughed along with the jokes? Am I actually being dramatic by feeling betrayed that he talked about me this way to his friends? Or is it reasonable to be hurt that my boyfriend painted me in a negative light before I even had a chance to make my own first impression? Some of my friends say I should break up with him over this because it shows he doesn't respect me. Others say that guys just talk like that with their friends and I shouldn't take it personally. I'm honestly confused about whether my reaction is justified or if I'm making too much of this situation. So am I overreacting for being upset about this? Oh man, this one makes me angry. No, you are absolutely not overreacting. Let me break down why this is such a massive red flag. First of all, your partner should be building you up to their friends, not tearing you down. When you care about someone, you want your friends to like them and see all the great qualities you see. You don't prime your friends to view your partner negatively before they even meet. Second, the examples he gave of you being dramatic are completely normal human behaviors. Crying during sad movies? That's called having emotions and empathy. Being disappointed about a forgotten anniversary? That's called wanting your partner to value your relationship. Venting about work stress? That's called needing emotional support from your partner, which is literally one of the main points of being in a relationship. What he's doing is pathologizing normal emotional responses to make himself look like the rational, level-headed one in the relationship. It's a way of preemptively controlling the narrative so that if you ever have legitimate complaints about his behavior, he can point to his friends and say, "See? She's always dramatic about everything." And the worst part, when you expressed that you were hurt, instead of apologizing or acknowledging that he made you uncomfortable, he doubled down and said you were proving his point. That's called gaslighting. He's taking your valid emotional response to being disrespected and using it as evidence that you're the problem. The friends making jokes all night wasn't harmless teasing. It was targeted mockery based on information your boyfriend provided. They felt comfortable doing it because he gave them permission by framing you that way in the first place. And he didn't shut it down, which means he was fine with them treating you that way. Here's the thing about the guys just talk like that excuse. Maybe some guys do, but that doesn't make it okay. And more importantly, When those private conversations hurt someone you care about, a good partner apologizes and changes their behavior. They don't tell you that you're too sensitive for being hurt. This isn't about whether you can take a joke, this is about whether your boyfriend respects you enough to speak about you with kindness when you're not around. Based on this story, he doesn't. The fact that your friends are split on this tells me some of them might have normalized this kind of behavior in their own relationships, which is sad. You deserve a partner who brags about you to their friends, not one who uses you as material for bonding over complaints. I'm calling not overreacting. And honestly, your friends who said you should break up with him might be onto something. This behavior usually gets worse, not better. Let's get into story number 3. This one is called, Am I Overreacting for Blocking My Sister on Social Media After She Posted Pictures from My Wedding that I specifically asked her not to share? Okay, here's the full story. I got married 3 months ago. My wedding was relatively small, about 80 people, and my husband and I had specifically decided we wanted it to be a private, intimate event. We didn't want our wedding plastered all over social media for several reasons. First, we're both pretty private people who don't share a lot of personal stuff online anyway. Second, my husband has an ex who is, for lack of a better word, obsessed with him. She still tries to contact him regularly even though they broke up 4 years ago, and we didn't want to give her any ammunition or reasons to insert herself into our lives. Third, we had some family members who we didn't invite to the wedding due to past drama, and we didn't want them seeing photos and causing problems. We made it very clear to all our guests, both in the invitations and with verbal reminders on the day of the wedding, that we were having an unplugged ceremony. We asked people to put away their phones during the ceremony and to please not post any photos from the wedding on social media. We explained that we wanted everyone to be present in the moment and that we'd be hiring a professional photographer whose photos we'd share privately with close family and friends. Everyone seemed to understand and respect this request, except for my sister. My sister is one of those people who documents every single moment of her life on Instagram. She posts multiple times a day, has thousands of followers, and basically treats social media like it's her full-time job. I knew this about her, which is why I specifically pulled her aside a week before the wedding and had a private conversation about our no social media rule. I told her directly, please do not post any photos from my wedding. This is really important to me and my husband. You can take pictures for yourself, but do not share them publicly. She said she understood and promised she wouldn't post anything. The wedding day was beautiful. Everything went perfectly. I was so happy and felt like everyone had respected our wishes, until the next morning, when I woke up to dozens of messages from people congratulating me and commenting on how beautiful the wedding looked based on my sister's Instagram posts. I immediately checked her Instagram and found that she had posted not just 1 or 2 pictures, but an entire series of posts. She'd posted photos from the ceremony, including pictures of me and my husband at the altar. She'd posted pictures from the reception, including candid shots of guests. She'd even posted a video of our first dance with a long caption about how emotional and beautiful the wedding was. Each post had hundreds of likes and comments. She'd tagged the venue, tagged me and my husband, even though we didn't want to be tagged, and used hashtags like wedding season and family wedding that made the posts even more visible to strangers. I immediately called her and asked why she posted the photos after I specifically asked her not to. Her response was that she thought I was being ridiculous about the social media thing, that the wedding was too beautiful not to share, and that she was just so excited and proud of me that she wanted to show it off. I told her that her excitement didn't give her the right to violate a boundary I'd clearly set. I asked her to take down the posts immediately. She refused. She said the posts were on her page, and she could post what she wanted. Empathetic. She said I was being controlling, and that I couldn't dictate what other people share on their own social media accounts. I pointed out that the photos were from my private event, and that I'd explicitly asked her not to share them. She said I was overreacting, and that most brides would be happy to have their wedding shared on social media for more people to see. She actually said, "You should be thanking me for the free exposure." When I continued to insist she take them down, she got angry and said I was ruining what should be a happy time by being difficult. She said she put a lot of effort into taking nice photos and writing thoughtful captions, and it was hurtful that I didn't appreciate it. After going back and forth for 20 minutes with her refusing to remove the posts, I told her that if she wouldn't respect my boundaries, then I didn't want her having access to my life on social media. I blocked her on all platforms. She immediately called me crying, saying I was being cruel and that blocking her was an extreme overreaction. She said families shouldn't block each other over something so small. My mum called me later that day saying I was being too harsh and that my sister was just excited about the wedding. She said I should unblock her and that we should work this out like adults. But here's the thing, I don't think I'm being too harsh. I set a clear boundary. I communicated it multiple times. She deliberately chose to ignore it. And then when faced with the consequences of her actions, she refused to take responsibility or fix what she'd done. Now half my family is saying I overreacted by blocking her and that I'm causing unnecessary family drama. The other half says my sister was completely out of line and that I had every right to enforce my boundaries. My husband is on my side and says I did the right thing, but even he's starting to wonder if maybe blocking her was too extreme and if there was a better way to handle it. So am I overreacting for blocking my sister after she posted wedding photos I specifically asked her not to share? Okay, this one has me heated. You are absolutely, 100%, not overreacting. Your sister violated a clearly stated boundary, refused to fix it, and then played the victim when you enforced consequences. Let's break this down. You didn't just casually mention in passing that you preferred no social media. You made it a stated rule for all guests, put it in the invitations, reminded people on the day of the event, and had a private one-on-one conversation with your sister specifically because you knew she was a heavy social media user. You did everything right in terms of communication. Your sister made a conscious choice to ignore your wishes. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. She decided that what she wanted, which was Instagram content and validation from her followers, was more important than respecting your explicitly stated boundary on your wedding day. And let's talk about her excuses. The wedding was too beautiful not to share is not a valid reason. Lots of things are beautiful, but that doesn't give you the right to share other people's private moments. I was excited and proud is also not a justification for violating someone's trust. The really infuriating part is her refusal to take the posts down. That shows this isn't about innocent excitement. If she genuinely didn't realize how serious you were about the no social media rule and just got caught up in the moment, she would have apologized immediately and removed the posts when you asked. Instead, she doubled down and said you couldn't tell her what to post on her own page. Technically, she's right that it's her social media account and she can post what she wants. But you're also right that you can control who has access to your life and your content. If she wants the freedom to post whatever she wants without considering other people's boundaries, then she can have that freedom without having access to you on social media. Actions have consequences. The free exposure comment is absolutely delusional. You're not a small business trying to get customers. You're a person who wanted a private wedding. Exposure was literally the opposite of what you wanted. Your sister crying and calling you cruel is classic manipulation. She violated your trust, refused to make it right, and now she's trying to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. That's textbook manipulation. She's turning herself into the victim to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. Your mum saying you should work it out like adults is frustrating because you tried to work it out like adults. You had an adult conversation before the wedding. You made an adult phone call after she posted the photos. She's the one who refused to engage like an adult by taking responsibility for her actions. The family members saying you're causing unnecessary drama are wrong. You didn't cause this drama. Your sister caused it by ignoring your wishes. You're just refusing to rug sweep her behavior, which some families interpret as drama because they're used to people backing down to keep the peace. Blocking someone isn't cruel. It's a boundary. It's saying if you won't respect my wishes, you don't get access to my life. That's reasonable. And honestly, given that she has thousands of followers and posts constantly, the risk of her sharing more private information about your life without permission is real. You gave her multiple chances to do the right thing. She refused every single one. Blocking her is a natural consequence of her own choices. I'm calling not overreacting. Keep her blocked until she genuinely apologizes and understands why what she did was wrong. And maybe not even then, because trust once broken is hard to rebuild. Alright, let's move to our next story. This one is titled, Am I Overreacting for Uninviting My Mother-in-Law from My Baby Shower After She Announced My Pregnancy Before I Could? This is a good one. Here's what happened. I'm currently 5 months pregnant with my first child. My husband and I had been trying for over a year, so when we finally got pregnant, we were absolutely thrilled. We decided we wanted to wait until I was safely into the second trimester before making any big announcements, just to be cautious. We told our immediate family at around 10 weeks, but made it very clear that we wanted to be the ones to announce it to extended family and on social media when we felt ready. Everyone agreed and said they understood. My mother-in-law, Carol, seemed especially excited and kept talking about how she couldn't wait to be a grandma again. This is her third grandchild, so she's been through this before. At around 14 weeks, we decided we were ready to start telling people. We planned to announce it at a family gathering we had scheduled for the following weekend, where both sides of the family would be together. We were going to do a cute reveal with scratch-off cards and then post about it on social media afterward. 3 days before our planned announcement, I started getting congratulations messages on Facebook from extended family members I hadn't even told yet. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely talked to, all sending messages about the baby. I was completely confused until I checked Carol's Facebook page. She had posted a long announcement about how blessed she was to be becoming a grandmother again. She posted ultrasound photos that we had texted her in confidence. She tagged me and my husband in the post. She even revealed that we were having a boy, which we had specifically asked everyone to keep quiet because we wanted to do a gender reveal party. I was devastated. This was supposed to be my announcement, my moment to share our exciting news with our family and friends, and my mother-in-law had just taken that away from me completely. I called her immediately, trying to stay calm, and asked why she posted about the pregnancy when we specifically said we wanted to announce it ourselves. Her response was that she was just so excited she couldn't help herself. She said she didn't think it was a big deal because people were going to find out anyway. She actually laughed and said I should be happy that people are excited about the baby. I explained that I was upset because this was important to me, and she had taken away something I'd been looking forward to. She got defensive and said I was being overly sensitive and hormonal. She said that when she had her kids, nobody made such a big fuss about announcements and gender reveals. She said my generation makes everything into a production and that I needed to get over it. I asked her to at least take down the post since the damage was done, but maybe we could still salvage some of the surprise for people who hadn't seen it yet. She refused. She said it already had over 200 likes and tons of comments, and she wasn't going to delete it just because I was being dramatic. That's when I told her she was uninvited from my baby shower. I had been planning it for a few weeks, had already sent out save the dates, and she was supposed to be one of the guests of honor. But I told her that if she couldn't respect my boundaries and wishes during my pregnancy, then she didn't deserve to be part of the celebrations. She started crying and said I was being cruel and punishing her for being excited. She said she was sorry if she hurt my feelings, but that uninviting her from the baby shower was going too far. She said I was going to regret excluding her from important moments with her grandchild. My husband was furious with his mum and supported my decision. But his dad called us later saying we were overreacting and that Carol felt terrible. He said she made a mistake, but that family is supposed to forgive each other. He said that by uninviting her from the shower, I was being petty and vindictive. Now Carol has been posting passive-aggressive things on Facebook about how some people don't appreciate family and how she's heartbroken that she's being pushed away from her grandchild. Several family members have reached out saying I should reconsider and that Carol didn't mean any harm. My own mum thinks I did the right thing and that Carol needs to learn that actions have consequences. My friends are split. Some say uninviting her sends a clear message about respecting boundaries. Others think I should have given her a warning first and that uninviting her was too extreme of a punishment for a first offense. I'm starting to second-guess myself. Was I too harsh? Should I have just let it go and tried to move past it? Or was I right to enforce consequences when she violated my trust and refused to even apologize properly? So am I overreacting for uninviting my mother-in-law from my baby shower after she announced my pregnancy without permission? No, you are absolutely not overreacting. Carol didn't just make an innocent mistake. She made a deliberate choice to prioritize her own excitement over your clearly stated wishes, and then doubled down when confronted instead of apologizing. Let's be really clear about what happened here. You specifically told your immediate family that you wanted to be the ones to announce your pregnancy. This isn't an unusual or unreasonable request. Lots of parents want to control how and when their pregnancy news is shared. Carol knew this, agreed to it, and then completely ignored it. The fact that she posted your ultrasound photos without permission is a huge violation. Those are private medical images that you shared with her in confidence. She had no right to post them publicly. And revealing the gender when you specifically asked people to keep it private because you wanted to do a gender reveal, that's just blatant disrespect for your wishes. Her excuse that she was too excited to help herself is not valid. Adults are capable of controlling their impulses even when they're excited. She could have waited 3 more days for your planned announcement. She chose not to because what she wanted was more important to her than what you wanted. The comment about you being hormonal and overly sensitive is dismissive and insulting. She's trying to invalidate your completely reasonable feelings by blaming them on pregnancy hormones. That's a classic tactic to avoid taking responsibility for her own actions. And the whole thing about her generation not making a fuss about announcements, that's irrelevant. This isn't about her generation or your generation. It's about you specifically asking for something and her specifically ignoring it. Whether or not she thinks pregnancy announcements are important doesn't matter. You think they're important, it's your pregnancy, and she should have respected that. The refusal to take down the post is what really seals it for me. Even after you explained that she hurt you, even after you asked her to try to minimize the damage, she refused because she didn't want to lose the likes and comments. She prioritized Facebook engagement over your feelings. That tells you everything you need to know about her priorities. Uninviting her from the baby shower is not cruel. It's a consequence. She showed that she can't be trusted to respect your boundaries during important moments of your pregnancy. The baby shower is another important moment. Why would you want someone there who's already proven they'll make it about themselves instead of respecting your wishes? Her crying and saying you're punishing her is manipulation. She's making herself the victim to avoid accountability. And the Facebook posts about being pushed away from her grandchild, that's emotional blackmail. She's trying to make you look like the bad guy to get family members to pressure you into backing down. Your father-in-law saying family is supposed to forgive each other is true, but forgiveness doesn't mean no consequences. You can forgive someone while still enforcing boundaries. Carol hasn't even properly apologized. She said she was sorry if she hurt your feelings, which is a non-apology. A real apology would be, I'm sorry I announced your pregnancy without permission. That was wrong, and I should have respected your wishes. The family members saying Carol didn't mean any harm are wrong. Intent doesn't erase impact. Even if she didn't intend to hurt you, she did hurt you, and she needs to take responsibility for that. I'm calling not overreacting. You set a boundary, she violated it, you enforced a consequence. That's how boundaries work. If you back down now, you're teaching Carol that she can violate your boundaries without real consequences, and that's going to cause problems throughout your child's life. Stand your ground. She can earn her way back into these special moments by showing genuine remorse and proving she can respect your boundaries going forward. Let's move to our next story. This one is titled, Am I Overreacting for Refusing to Go on a Family Vacation After Finding Out My Parents Didn't Invite My Husband? Here's the situation. I'm 32 years old and have been married to my husband Jake for 4 years. We have a great relationship, and I thought he got along well with my family. My parents always seemed friendly toward him, and there'd never been any major conflicts. Last month, my mum called me all excited about a family vacation she and my dad were planning. She said they wanted to rent a big beach house for a week in July and have the whole family together. She said it would be me, my 2 brothers and their wives, and all the grandkids. She was talking about how fun it would be to have everyone under one roof and how they hadn't done a big family trip in years. I was excited and told her it sounded great. I said I'd need to check with Jake about his work schedule, but that we'd probably be able to make it work. That's when my mum got quiet for a second and then said, "Oh, well actually we were thinking this would be just blood family, just us and the kids." I was confused and asked what she meant. She said that they were only inviting their children and grandchildren, not spouses. When I pointed out that she'd said my brothers' wives were invited, she clarified that she meant everyone except Jake specifically. I asked her why Jake wasn't invited when my brothers' wives were. She hemmed and hawed for a minute, and then said that my dad felt like Jake didn't really fit in with the family. She said Jake was too quiet during family gatherings, and that my dad felt like he didn't make enough effort to bond with them. I was stunned. Jake is naturally more introverted, but he's always polite and friendly with my family. He asks questions, participates in conversations, and helps out when we're at family events. He's just not the loud, joking around type like my dad and brothers are. I told my mum that it was incredibly rude to exclude my husband and that I wouldn't be going on a trip that he wasn't invited to. She got upset and said I was choosing Jake over my family. She said it was just 1 week and that I should want to spend time with my parents and brothers without my husband attached at the hip. I explained that Jake is my family too and that I'm not going to attend a family event that specifically excludes him. She said I was being difficult and that she didn't understand why I was making such a big deal about this. She said my brothers' wives understood and weren't making a fuss. That caught my attention, so I called my sisters-in-law to ask if they knew they were invited, but Jake wasn't. Both of them were surprised and uncomfortable. One of them said she assumed all spouses were invited. The other said my mum had mentioned it being a family trip but hadn't specifically said Jake was excluded. I then found out from one of them that my dad had apparently made comments before about Jake being boring and not really being his kind of person. My father-in-law is very outdoorsy, loves sports, drinks beer, and has that typical masculine bravado personality. Jake is more into reading, cooking, and having deep one-on-one conversations. They're just different types of people, but Jake has never been rude or dismissive toward my dad. I called my parents back and told them I thought it was wrong to exclude Jake based on my dad's personality preferences. I said that if Jake wasn't welcome, then I wasn't coming either. My dad got on the phone and said I was being ridiculous and disrespectful. He said it's his vacation that he's paying for, so he gets to decide who's invited. He said I should be grateful they're offering to include me, and that I'm being ungrateful by making demands. I stood my ground and said I wouldn't attend. Now my whole family is upset with me. My brothers are saying I'm ruining the family vacation by making everything about me and Jake. My mum is crying and saying I'm choosing my husband over my relationship with my parents. My dad is angry and has barely spoken to me in weeks. Some extended family members who heard about the situation are saying I'm overreacting and that it's just one vacation. They're saying I should go and spend time with my family and that Jake would probably understand. They're saying that marriage doesn't mean you have to do everything together and that it's healthy to have time apart. But I feel like this is different. This isn't me going on a girls' trip with friends or my husband going on a guy's weekend. Proud, this is my parents specifically excluding my husband from a family event while including everyone else's spouses. It feels disrespectful to both me and Jake. Jake says he doesn't want to cause problems with my family and that I should go on the trip if I want to. But I can tell he's hurt by the situation, even if he's trying to be understanding about it. So am I overreacting for refusing to go on this family vacation because my husband wasn't invited? Absolutely not overreacting. Your parents are playing favorites with their children's spouses, and that's not okay. Let's break down why this is such a problem. First, the inconsistency. If this was truly meant to be just blood family, then no spouses would be invited, but they specifically invited your brother's wives while excluding Jake. That's not a policy, that's targeted exclusion. They're singling out your husband because your dad doesn't vibe with his personality, which is incredibly immature and unfair. Your dad not liking that Jake is quiet and introverted is a him problem, not a Jake problem. Jake doesn't have to be loud and outdoorsy to be a good person or a good husband. The fact that your dad thinks someone has to match his specific personality type to be worthy of inclusion in family events is narrow-minded. And let's talk about what this communicates to you. By excluding Jake, your parents are essentially saying they don't fully accept your marriage. They're treating your husband as optional, as if he's just someone you're dating casually rather than your life partner. When you marry someone, they become your immediate family. Your parents should recognize and respect that. The fact that your mum is framing this as you choosing Jake over your family is manipulative. You're not choosing Jake over your family. You're refusing to participate in something that disrespects your marriage. There's a huge difference. You're setting a boundary that says, my husband and I are a package deal, and if you're going to exclude him, you're excluding me too. Your dad saying it's his vacation and his money so he can invite whoever he wants is technically true, but it doesn't make his choice any less hurtful or wrong. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. He's using his financial power to try to force you to accept disrespect toward your husband. Your brothers saying you're ruining the vacation by making it about you and Jake are deflecting. You're not ruining anything. Your parents ruined it by creating this unnecessary conflict through their exclusion of Jake. They could have invited everyone, and there would be no problem. This situation only exists because of their choice. The extended family saying marriage doesn't mean you do everything together are missing the point. You're right that this isn't about whether married couples need to be together constantly. This is about your parents deliberately excluding your spouse from a family event, where all other spouses are included. That's not about healthy independence. That's about disrespect. Jake saying you should go if you want to, and that he doesn't want to cause problems is him being a good person, but don't mistake his graciousness for this being okay. He's hurt. He should be hurt. And you're absolutely right to stand by him. Here's what's really happening. Your parents, specifically your dad, have decided that Jake doesn't meet their standards for what a son-in-law should be like. Rather than accepting that people have different personalities, and that's okay, they're trying to exclude him from family events. If you go on this trip, you're essentially agreeing that their treatment of Jake is acceptable. You're telling them that they can disrespect your husband and your marriage, and you'll just go along with it. What message does that send to Jake? That when your family disrespects him, you'll side with them to keep the peace? That's not the foundation of a strong marriage. I'm calling not overreacting. In fact, I think you're handling this exactly right. You're standing up for your husband and your marriage. Your parents need to learn that if they want you in their lives, they need to respect your spouse. All of your siblings' spouses should be treated equally, and if your dad can't handle Jake's personality, that's something your dad needs to work on, not something Jake needs to change or something you need to accept. Stand your ground, don't go on the trip, and make it clear to your parents that moving forward, events that exclude Jake without a legitimate reason are events you won't be attending. Let's move on to our next story. This one is called, Am I Overreacting for Cancelling My Engagement After My Fiancé Said He Wouldn't Have Proposed If He Knew I Couldn't Have Children? This is a heavy one. I'm 30 years old, and I got engaged to my fiancé Mark 6 months ago. We'd been dating for 3 years, and everything seemed perfect. He proposed in this beautiful, romantic way, and I was absolutely thrilled. We immediately started planning the wedding, set a date for next spring, and I was so excited about starting our life together. About a month ago, I started having some health issues. I won't go into all the details, but after several doctor appointments and tests, I found out that I have a condition that makes it extremely unlikely that I'll ever be able to conceive naturally. There's a very small chance it could happen, But realistically, if Mark and I wanted children, we'd need to pursue IVF, adoption, or other alternatives. I was devastated by this news. I'd always imagined having children naturally, and finding out that probably wasn't going to be possible was really hard to process. I took a few days to deal with my emotions before I told Mark, because I wanted to be able to have a calm conversation about it, rather than just breaking down crying. When I finally sat him down and told him, his initial reaction seemed supportive. He hugged me, said he was sorry I was going through this, and said we'd figure it out together. I felt relieved and thought we were going to be okay. But over the next couple of weeks, Mark became distant. He was less affectionate, seemed preoccupied all the time, and stopped talking about wedding plans. When I'd try to bring up the wedding or our future, he'd give short answers or change the subject. Finally, I asked him directly what was going on. He said he needed to talk to me about something serious. We sat down, and he said that he'd been thinking a lot about my diagnosis and what it meant for our future. He said he'd always envisioned having a family with biological children, and that he wasn't sure if he could give up that dream. I told him I understood that was disappointing, but that we had options. IVF could work, or we could adopt. There are lots of ways to build a family. He said he knew that intellectually, but that it felt different. He said biological children were important to him, and he didn't know if adoption would feel the same. Then he said something that broke my heart. He said, "I just need to be honest with you. If I had known you couldn't have children before I proposed, I don't think I would have proposed. I love you, but this changes things." I was stunned. I asked him if he was saying he wanted to break up. He said he didn't know, that he needed time to think about whether he could commit to a future that didn't include biological children. He said he didn't want to make any rash decisions. I told him that I didn't need time to think about it. If he wouldn't have proposed to me knowing I couldn't have biological children, then clearly he proposed to me with conditions. He didn't propose because he wanted to spend his life with me. He proposed because he wanted to have children and assumed I could provide that. I took off my ring and told him the engagement was off. He started backtracking and saying that's not what he meant, that he loved me and wanted to be with me, and that he was just being honest about his feelings and working through a difficult situation. But I stood firm. I told him that when you truly love someone and want to marry them, you want to marry that person, not the family you think you're going to have with them. I said that his reaction showed me that I was never really what he wanted. I was just a means to an end. He's been trying to get me to reconsider for the past week. He says I'm overreacting and throwing away our relationship over something he said when he was processing difficult news. He says everyone is allowed to have feelings and that I'm punishing him for being honest about struggling with this information. My friends are split. Some say I did the right thing and that his reaction showed his true priorities. Others say I'm being too harsh and that he was just being honest about his feelings, which is what you're supposed to do in a relationship. They say people need time to adjust to life-changing news and that I didn't give him enough grace to work through his emotions. My family thinks I made the right call. My sister said that if someone's love for you is conditional on your ability to give them biological children, then they don't really love you for you. But Mark's family is furious with me. His mum called me selfish and said I'm breaking her son's heart over one comment he made during a stressful time. I feel confident in my decision, but the fact that so many people think I overreacted is making me second-guess myself. Should I have given him more time to process? Was it fair to end our engagement over something he said when he was working through his own disappointment? So am I overreacting for cancelling my engagement after my fiancé said he wouldn't have proposed if he knew I couldn't have children? No. You are not overreacting at all. In fact, I think you handled this with incredible clarity and self-respect in a moment when you had every reason to be emotional and desperate to save the relationship. Mark told you, in plain words, that he wouldn't have proposed to you if he'd known about your fertility issues. That's not him processing difficult emotions. That's him revealing the fundamental nature of his commitment to you. He didn't propose because he wanted to marry you specifically. He proposed because he wanted to marry someone who could give him biological children, and he thought you were that person. Let's think about what marriage vows actually mean. You promise to love someone in sickness and in health, for better or worse. Those aren't just pretty words. They're a commitment to staying with someone regardless of what circumstances life throws at you. What Mark revealed is that his commitment to you was conditional on your fertility. That's not the foundation of a marriage. The argument that he was just being honest about his feelings and working through difficult news doesn't hold up. Yes, he's allowed to have feelings. Yes, it's okay to feel disappointed about the possibility of not having biological children. But there's a massive difference between I'm sad about this news and I need time to process, and I wouldn't have proposed to you if I'd known. The first statement is about processing grief about a change in plans. The second statement is about revealing that your love and commitment were transactional. He wanted something from you, specifically the ability to have his biological children, and now that he's learned you probably can't provide that, he's reconsidering whether you're worth marrying. Think about what this means for your future. What happens if you got married and then developed a chronic illness? Would he leave because he signed up for a healthy wife? What if you had an accident that left you disabled? Would he reconsider the marriage because that's not what he envisioned? His reaction to your fertility diagnosis is showing you that his love is conditional, and conditional love is not the kind of love that sustains a marriage through real hardship. Your friends who say you're being too harsh are wrong. This isn't about punishing him for having feelings. This is about recognizing that the feelings he has reveal a fundamental incompatibility in values. You want a partner who loves you for who you are. Someone who would want to marry you regardless of whether children were in the picture. He wants a wife who can give him biological children, and you are not required to accept being valued primarily for your reproductive capabilities. The people saying you didn't give him enough grace to work through his emotions are missing the point. How much time would be enough? A week to decide if you're worth marrying without biological children? A month? What exactly would change during that time? Either he wants to marry you specifically, or he doesn't. That's not something that requires extensive processing time. And honestly, the fact that he became distant and cold for weeks before even talking to you about it shows that he was already pulling away emotionally. He wasn't working through his feelings while maintaining his commitment to you. He was withdrawing from the relationship. His backtracking when you ended the engagement is telling. He says that's not what he meant, but it clearly is what he meant. He said it directly. Now he's trying to take it back because he's facing consequences, not because he's had some great revelation about loving you unconditionally. Mark's mum calling you selfish is rich. You're selfish for not wanting to marry someone who just told you he wouldn't have proposed if he'd known about your medical condition? That's absurd. You're not required to marry someone who views you as deficient because of a health issue. Your sister is absolutely right. If someone's love for you is conditional on your ability to provide biological children, that's not real love. That's someone who has an idea of what they want their life to look like and is trying to find a person who fits into that picture, rather than someone who wants to build a life with a specific person they love. I'm calling not overreacting. You made the right decision. You deserve someone who wants to marry you, not someone who wants to marry the idea of biological children and views you as the vehicle for making that happen. Mark showed you who he is and what his priorities are. Believe him and move on. Alright, that's going to wrap up today's stories. We covered some intense situations today. A roommate who wanted free food forever, a boyfriend who trash-talked his girlfriend to his friends before she even met them, a sister who couldn't respect wedding boundaries, a mother-in-law who announced a pregnancy without permission, parents who excluded a son-in-law from a family vacation based on personality differences, and a fiancé who revealed his proposal was conditional on biological children. The common theme in all these stories is people who violated trust and boundaries, then tried to make the victims feel guilty for having reasonable reactions. In every single one of these situations, the person asking if they overreacted absolutely did not overreact. They set boundaries, enforced consequences, and refused to let people manipulate them into accepting disrespect. If you take anything away from today's stories, I hope it's this. Having boundaries doesn't make you difficult or dramatic. Enforcing consequences when people violate those boundaries doesn't make you cruel or unforgiving, and refusing to accept mistreatment doesn't make you overly sensitive. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is recognize when someone's behavior is unacceptable and respond accordingly. Thanks so much for watching my first video. If you enjoyed these stories, please consider subscribing because I'll be making more of these. Let me know in the comments which story resonated with you the most, or if you think any of these people actually were overreacting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video with more stories and more judgment. Take care, everyone.